So, folks, all the meetings have started. He's had one-on-one with Kamala Harris, one-on-one with Biden. Lots of stuff that is in the headlines. The key part from the takeaway of Harris is the fact that she had made a suo moto statement taking down Pakistan on terrorism. On the same side, you had Blinken meeting Qureshi, talking about their relationship, but specifying it to Afghanistan. There's nothing more there. Pakistan is chafing at the bit because Imran Khan is not being called by Biden. But why should a president call a prime minister of a country that's let him down dubiously, besides having a role to play in all the soldiers that have been killed because they supported the Taliban and all their violence, is that this is going to be too difficult to swallow, this humiliation of the way they had to exit and the fast movement of the Taliban, courtesy the Pakistan army, including the Panjshir Valley, where Iran now has enough evidence to suggest it was Pakistani forces, Pakistani Air Force also was deployed to bring down Panjshir quickly. But what do we have in the United States? Stronger, closer, tighter. US heralds new India paradigm. This is Yashwant Raj writing from there. Harris urges Pakistan to crack down on terror from its territory. Quad leaders agree to scale up collective strategic cooperation. Harris, suo moto, brings up Pakistan during meet with Modi, asks it to rein in terror. Then you have Harris calls upon Pakistan to act against terrorists on its soil. This is again Yashwant Raj. Indian PM US sweep underscore the need to closely monitor Islamabad's support for terrorism. See what's happened now, right? They could play the United States, right? As long as United States was stuck in Afghanistan and the only exit route it had was land route for supply chains, etc., was Pakistan. Now having exited, what's Pakistan going to do? I'm trying to figure out how they're going to pull the bunny out of the hat. In first in-person meet, Biden and PM talk COVID, climate change, ties with India destined to be stronger, closer, says US President. Okay. India-US ties about democratic values, diversity, Biden to Modi. And yeah, democracy is a work in progress in both these countries, and it's apparent and it's on the table now, right? Area of trade will be tremendously important this decade, says Modi. In remarks, Modi and Biden skirt hot button issues. China fumes as Quad India says it caused Galwan clash. Just the timing of the statement by China. What does India say? Provocative behavior of China along LAC disrupted relations, says India. China's bid to change LAC status quo hit ties, says India. And put it right there. That's exactly what happened. The AUKUS alliance, now how not to win friends, is written by Rakesh Su. And he says this creates an opening for nuclear-powered submarines deal between France and India. Sure does. Though I think India should wait in the line to try and get the best technology in the world, which is from the United States. Let's see how it plays out. US-France meet patch up to take time. Sure, let it take its own time. France is the loser here. Biden hosts first Quad summit. Modi says force for global good. I don't understand why global good. Global good right now is to take China down. Modi discusses Indo-Pacific supply chain with Australia, Japanese PMs. Okay. Vaccines, Indo-Pacific in focus at first Quad summit. This is what happened the last time. Summit was a US initiative. This is where it all started, right? Quad summit timing reflects Biden administration's priorities of the US. This is the important part. This happened in March when there were a lot of naysayers, a lot of doubters in India. There was a lot of amplification happening courtesy Russia and China in the Indian press and the global press, suggesting that again, Quad was, hey, nothing out there, folks. Don't trust it. Quad nations to boost India's vaccine output. It sure took time, but India is ramping up again. Biden meet with Indo-Pacific partners, a message to China. This again was a build-up then. Days before Quad, Beijing to Delhi. Not rivals, don't undercut each other. Now this is, Beijing is worried, no matter what it says, right? 71 countries, 58 million doses. India's vaccine diplomacy gets Quad boost. Now this happened in the past, right? India did its part. Sacrificed a lot internally. Fine. But now it's back again. It's ramping up. Southeast Asia, Africa continue to suffer from shortage of vaccines. So India is in play, right? Joe Biden makes his China call, accords primacy to Indo-Pacific. So all stuff started getting laid to rest. All the doubters started getting what would you say, sidelined in India and globally, folks. Cheers. So welcome back, folks. Some of the nays, which included people like Rajiv Bhatia, now I think are doing a rethink. Clouds over the Quad. Many uncertainties weigh on whether the Quad project can move forward. One of the things he brought up was Myanmar and what's happening there. The other one important part was, first, the much talked about decoupling of the US and China is turning out to be more myth than reality. This may have been seemed true when you measure it against trade figures, which continue to show a huge imbalance and import from China. But hey, at the end of the day, these things don't happen with just a hit of the switch, right? This requires time because China had hogged up the entire space of manufacturing. But as I say, as screws are tightening, whether they are financial, whether they are trade, whether they are technology, they are a tightening, right? Then what do we have here? He says China's hostility, India's resilient shaped Quad. This was written by Harsh Pant. Just as without Chinese belligerence, a substantive Quad would have remained a distant dream. Without a proactive India, the grouping would not have been able to move so far, so fast. As the new geopolitical order takes shape in the Indo-Pacific, India and China will continue to be the center of the emerging order, and New Delhi would do well to remember that the game has only just begun, right? Biden enlists Quad allies to push back against China. US, India, Australia and Japan aim to present a united front in the Indo-Pacific. This was happening in March. Quad leaders pen op-ed talk of free Indo-Pacific. I'm giving a little rundown on what happened since 2020. The reason being that there were a lot of doubts and a lot of naysayers that suggested that the Quad was going nowhere, especially after Trump and moved to Biden, and Biden had really highlighted the Quad during his campaign, and then there was this meeting in March which showed that Biden was right on top of the Quad. But we kind of missed this whole thing because we were suffering from our own convulsions of the second wave, where deaths and oxygen took the prime space in media, and we kind of underplayed the Quad, which was virtual, then Jaishankar's visit, then Blinken's visit, that all just went under the blanket. But obviously a huge amount of build-up was happening, right? First Quad leaders meeting likely to be held this month. This was on March. China slams Quad as a close clique. Foreign Ministry says such exclusive groups will not help build mutual trust and cooperation. So if they're making statements like this, it has to show that it mattered, right? Top US diplomat calls for expansion of Quad group. It says the United States and India are ready for a fundamental alignment based on shared interests and shared goals. US Deputy Secretary of State Stephen Biegun said on Monday. Biegun said there was not about an alliance on the post-war model, but an alignment along shared security and geopolitical goals, right? And this was a consequential move. Australia to join Malabar exercises, Quad gets boost. He says the significance of the Malabar exercise, it is only with economic strength and partnerships such as the one that will be manifested in the Malabar exercise that India can broaden its options with China. The road to peace in the mountains may lie through the seas, and that is absolutely right. Malabar, the Quad's debutante ball, and it was successful. Malabar signal. Australia's return shows Delhi is reconsidering deference to Beijing's interest, giving primacy to its own. This is a big one, right? India, US to cement bilateral ties with Quad after Jaishankar visit. India throws weight behind Quad group. Jaishankar gets US backing on concerns over Indo-Pacific. What's important, folks, here is what Harsh Pant had written. India also put its shoulder to the wheel as far as the success of this Quad is concerned. First Quad summit, India, US, Japan, Australia leaders talks Friday. Japan PM raises China and Modi call. India okay. Then Quad makes its first big move, joint vaccine push. China hits out at targeting of third-party pursuits of exclusive cliques. Maritime security next on Quad's agenda. Key trilateral meet soon. Signal to China, Quad navies to sail together. Indo-US pact on table. India, US, Japan, Australia in joint exercise. Becca being readied for talks, right? US wants Quad to be more regularized. China notices it. Fine. Naval drills trilateral meets next on the agenda for Quad. In message to China, India invites Australia for naval exercises. This is how it started. Firmly opposed to Quad alliance, said China. Now that, folks, is where there is the real McCoy. So India has been doing a lot of heavy lifting, like you said, whether talking individually with Australia, United States, and Japan. US, Japan pledged to build a free Indo-Pacific. This was with India. India to make US vaccines with Japan funds, Australia logistics, talking about 1 billion doses of vaccines. This was all happening pre our second wave. Japan PM takes up China and Modi call. Quad summit to become regular. Since the tsunami, India and Japan are strengthening ties in disaster risk reduction and building resilient infrastructure. So Japan's been working overtime with India, right? Japan's new PM endorses Abe's Indo-Pacific policy that whatever the fear was there went away. Japan, India's most trusted friend, says PM. Japan and India share values such as freedom, democracy, and strategic interests, says for Suga. Quad ties, India targets 1 billion tax wax output by end of 2022, and that's probably going to happen, right? India, Japan discuss ways to take forward Quad wax plan. It says the companies take direct funding from JBIC, just as BioE has done with DFC. The US International Development DFC has announced in mid-March that it would finance 1 billion vaccines doses by Hyderabad-based firm Biotech E. The Quad also sees India's role in extending vaccine coverage in the neighborhood as imperative. Quad's vaccine diplomacy is critically dependent on India's ability to produce and distribute COVID vaccines, and imperative. By September this year, India's internal demand and supply of these vaccines is expected to be stabilized, and then she will be in a position to resume exports on COVID, and that's exactly what's happening, right? And this is what Sujan Chinoy writes, right? The rise of the Quad. And this is important to note, right? Beijing views the Indo-Pacific as a direct threat to the BRI and in classical Vichy calculation as an encirclement strategy. During his recent visit to Malaysia, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi criticized the Quad, stating that Washington was aiming to build an Indo-Pacific NATO through the Quad. The very fact that China no longer describes it as a headline grabbing and foam on the sea that would soon dissipate is proof that the Quad is acquiring traction. Important, right? The Quad, having ensconced itself as the core of the free and open Indo-Pacific vision, now needs a definitive blueprint in order to have a meaningful impact. It should have a tough security-oriented core with a softer and inclusive exoskeleton that prioritizes the development agenda. The Quad Plus format should cater to the region's economic needs, including infrastructure, connectivity, and capacity building. Without generous alternatives, many countries would continue to be drawn to China as moths to the flame. That's what's happening. Once a solitary voice, India's concern about the BRI are now echoed by several countries. India took the lead in banning Chinese apps. Notably, it was India's decision that has elevated the Quad dialogue to ministerial level in 2019. Yet again, it is India which has shed its reticence and decided to welcome Australia to the Malabar 220 exercise. India's pullout from RCEP negotiations last year may have appeared self-injurious then, but subsequent developments have put into sharper relief the deleterious role of China-centric supply chains. That's important to note. And as Rohan Mukherjee writes, India's place in Quad hinges on its ability to counter China, not COVID. This is important. The same cannot be said for India's defense establishment and broader ability to generate and project military power, and this is what counts when it comes to India's foreign relations and the Quad in particular. Navy, absolutely critical. Ultimately, the impact of COVID-19 on India's place in the Quad hinges on what India's post-pandemic economy and military can deliver to countries looking to secure their own interests in the face of Chinese rise. Vaccines are a minimum part of the equation. More important is the human capital cost of the virus in key Indian government functions and economic sectors, folks. Cheers. I think India is coming out of this with a little bit of scarring, but largely intact, folks. There will be a lot of people currently who will be talking about that Modi is not being treated well in the United States, but don't listen to the noise. The real meat so far is doing well. Jai Hind.